Excuse me. I didn't mean to screw things up for justice. I just came to offer my support.
I know that, Sonny.
You're welcome anytime. And if that judge has got a shred of sense, she'll see what Jensen did. It's just a grandstand play, that's all. Can I talk to you for a second? I'll be right back.
What's the problem?
Well, I'm reasonably sure that we don't have one, apart from the obvious, but I have to make sure. If you had anything to do with Damien's death, you would tell me, right?
I'm surprised you even have to ask.
Look, my wife's life is on the line here, pal. I can't afford blind trust.
I understand. I have no clue who off Damien. I've had Harry on it, but he can't find anything that makes it look like an organization hit. But if I'd been involved, you would have been the first to know, believe me.
So what was that you said a while back about looking forward to going head-to-head against me in court?
Well, I did, but I wanted to make it as brief as possible.
By removing me?
Oh, come on now. I was just covering all the angles. You'd have done the same thing.
Yes, but I would have done it in chambers and not in public. That way, had I lost, which you will, I wouldn't have one strike against me going into opening statements.
But if I won, which I very well may, who'd know it?
Well, see, right there, that's the difference between the two of us. We both like a fight, but I prefer mine in the courtroom and not in the press.
Is that based on principle or because you don't want to tarnish your image again?
Oh, both guns firing. Aren't you the lady who volunteered to stuff envelopes for me in her spare time?
Well, when I'm working on a case, I don't have any spare time. Or regard for anything but winning.
May I speak to Mr. Ward a moment, please?
Of course. Excuse me.
Oh, allow me.
I trust you realize that you have only yourself to blame for being linked to that hood again.
Oh, well, thank you for your support, Edward, as always.
I am here to support you. If you hadn't insisted on representing Laura
You better hope the judge doesn't remove me from the case, because if she does, I'm going to tell the truth about Damien Smith's murder.
The judge is coming back with a ruling. Everybody back in the pool.
You know what? I think it's best that I stay out of the courtroom for everybody concerned.
I tell you, it'd be best if I could get my wife out of this courtroom, far away. Life on the run is looking better and better. Where did you disappear to?
All rise for the Honorable Marion Henry.
Be seated. After careful consideration, the motions of both the defense and the prosecution are denied. The charges against the defendant, Laura Spencer, will not be dismissed, and Mr. Ward will remain as her counsel, provided she still so wishes. Mrs. Spencer?
Yes, Your Honor, I want that very much.
Very well, we'll proceed. Bailiff will admit the jury. Miss Jensen, are you prepared to make your opening statement?
I am, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin with my opening statement, I'd like to offer to you my profound thanks for accepting the grave responsibility of serving on this jury. And I hope that any inconvenience or personal sacrifice that you may have because of your service is offset by the knowledge that you are doing your part to preserve the judicial system that protects each and every one of us. And I know that every one of you are as happy as I am that it exists. Now, let me tell you how the Office of the District Attorney intends to go about proving that Laura Spencer is guilty of the crime of murder in the second degree in the death of Damien Smith. I should say beforehand that the defense will undoubtedly try to characterize Laura Spencer as a pillar of the community. We don't take issue with that. Laura Spencer is a wife and a mother and a community activist, and she gives of herself to numerous charities and political causes, all since she's returned to Port Charles in the last 3 years. The prosecution, however, will focus on that time prior to that return, tracing a long history of animosity between the Spencers and Frank Smith, a known criminal and father to Damian Smith, the man Laura Spencer murdered. Now, during that 10-year period, Luke and Laura Spencer were essentially fugitives, traveling the world, living by their own code, exposing the young child that they were raising to untold dangers. We will go on to show that during that time, they demonstrated a blatant disregard for the law, espousing the attitude that, hey, if the law doesn't suit you, take the law into your own hands. As indeed, Laura Spencer did on the night of March the 15th, when she willfully caused the death of Damian Smith. Furthermore, we will go on to provide witnesses to the fact that Laura Spencer showed instant enmity for and suspicion of Damian Smith the moment he arrived in Port Charles. That they clashed on many issues, including the proposed toxic waste incinerator and his attempts to undermine the Charles Street Foundation. That she was appalled and enraged at his plans to raise Ward House, which was a particular passion in her life, and replace it with a business venture of his own. Now, the defense will no doubt take pains to show you that Damian Smith was a ruthless man, that he was as evil and contemptible as his father. We will not dispute that. It's irrelevant. Damian Smith is not on trial here. Damian Smith is dead. Now, Laura Spencer had cause to despise him, but that did not grant her the right to end his life. Now, we will further prove that the deceased, Damian Smith, not only threatened Laura Spencer's pet community projects, but, and more importantly, he threatened her family. How? He was attempting to gain influence over her son. He paid off Lucas Jr.'s gambling debts and was apparently trying to lure the boy into accepting his protection and maybe even his way of life. Not only do we have many witnesses to Laura Spencer's reaction when she learned this, but we also have a videotape of the incident where she grabbed a baseball bat and physically threatened him in a public place. Now, you will view that videotape and decide for yourself. Is this model mother and community activist capable of killing someone? Well, Laura Spencer, as you will see for yourself on the tape, was able to regain herself. And she didn't kill Damian Smith that night. But our contention is that that night, the resolve to do so was born. Now, I will outline for you just how the prosecution plans to prove the way Laura Spencer willfully and with malice aforethought murdered Damian Smith. On to prove that in her fear and loathing of Damian Smith, in her assurance that he threatened everything that she held dear, Laura Spencer devised a way to be rid of him. We will produce phone records that indicate she called him the day of his death. It's our contention that she arranged to meet with him at the Ward House that evening, that she contrived to be alone in the building by fabricating an excuse, a sick baby, to give herself the opportunity to commit murder. Now, Damian Smith was not fooled by this. He knew the Spencers' record. He knew how they felt about the law. He suspected he was in danger. So Damian set about making his own plans. He would arrive early and burn the place down. As anyone who knew Damian would testify, he thought big and he thought flashy. What a perfect revenge. Laura Spencer would arrive at Ward House to find it going up in flames. And Damian Smith would be a double winner. He would have a clear and free path to building his new business venture, and he would have avenged the murder of his father at the hand of Laura Spencer's husband, which I might add is a matter of record. So, on March the 15th, Damian Smith arrived early at Ward House, equipped for arson. His entry was easy. Mary May Ward had been a trusting soul. The locks weren't much, so he set about dousing the place with accelerant. Got ready to put a torch to it. But what Damian didn't realize was that Laura Spencer was already there, lying in wait. And as he went about his attention, she came down from the stairs, stepped out of the shadows, and in accordance with her plan, struck the fatal blow that killed him instantly. Now, the defense will try to convince you that Laura Spencer would never put the lives of the two sick babies at risk. Now, that might be true. But she never anticipated the fire. That was her ultimate downfall. After confirming that Damian was already dead, she ran for the fire extinguisher that she knew was kept in the hall closet, but it hadn't been checked. It was old. It didn't work. She threw it onto the floor where the arson investigators would later find it. Realizing the children were still upstairs, Laura ran to try to save them. Once up there, the fire began to rage out of control, and Laura was trapped with two small, helpless little children, all because her vicious plan went awry. That's where she was when the fire department arrived. That's where she was when her husband risked his own life to save hers. I assure you, this scenario is not just empty conjecture, ladies and gentlemen. We have evidence and witnesses to document it every step of the way. And I'm sure when you see it and hear it, you will come to the only conclusion possible and deliver the verdict that Laura Spencer is guilty of the crime of willful murder of Damian Smith. Thank you.